How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling. We got Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly here, and we're going to be joined by Mike Modest of All Pro Wrestling, and we'll be talking about his career. Mike Modest has had tremendous luck, most of it bad, by the way, when it comes to his pro wrestling career in the last couple of years. But we'll be talking about his various incarnations and what's up for the future, and who he's talked to and things like that. Brian, how are you today?
I'm doing good.
That's good. How'd the issue turn out?
It turned out pretty good. I was up kind of late trying to do a Mick Foley book review, which I've learned my lesson about putting things off with that book review. I should have done it the very first week, because after waiting 4 weeks, all the play on words with Foley is Good had been taken. You wrote a review that was almost longer than the book itself, and I had quite a task to attempt to follow. And I failed miserably, but I wrote the review.
Well, but I mean, there's a lot more, I mean, that he's talked about and things like that, and certainly on the drug chapter issue, there are things that have happened since the book came out that, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's been kind of embarrassing for the company.
Bad timing for Mick Foley.
Bad timing for Mick Foley to go in and say that, like,
Mick Foley's kind of had a string of saying things that ended up being real bad timing. That, the Sunday Night Heat deal, not on a roll lately.
Well, I mean, just that people weren't watching Sunday Night Heat?
Saying that people would watch when he was on, and they didn't.
Nah, the rating was, like, actually down from the week before. Who was on the week before, anyway?
Kurt Angle, the ratings king.
Now, Kurt Angle's a real, and that's okay. I mean, if it had gone down from when Blackman was on, which it didn't, because Blackman, I remember, that was like the all-time record low, which was not a big surprise there. Yeah, I almost last night would have been done, like, record early time, because, the SmackDown was in Baltimore, and there was really not a whole heck of a lot going on, aside from SmackDown yesterday, and I had the Baltimore results real early. So what I figured was...
And you read them.
We'll talk about SmackDown in just a second. But, I'm very worried. But anyway, and I guess I'm not the only one, judging from those ratings. I think a lot of people are worried from the weekend. But, so anyway, I figured what I would do was I would watch tapes until midnight, and then I would finish the issue off, which is much earlier than usual. So anyway, I was watching tapes last night, and I fell asleep in front of the VCR and didn't wake up until 1:45, so I ended up being up till 3 in the morning anyway, finishing up.
That sounds some exciting tapes you were watching last night.
Yes. Actually, I saw a hell of a match.
It wasn't my tape.
No, it wasn't. It was actually, I saw a hell of a match with Karl Malenko and Daijiro Matsui from a recent Battle Art show. I mean, a hell of a match. Great mat wrestling. So that was really cool. And then I fell asleep. I missed most of the Lucha. But Brian, I did see the Pierroth Jr., El Hijo de Pierroth Jr. Ankle injury, and I don't know if you've heard about it.
I heard it was brutal.
It's not as bad as Sid's, but it's probably, I don't know how many of you, very, very few people probably listening remember the W. Malenko broken leg, but it reminded me of that. This was an ankle. I mean, it's just, he catches a guy on a dive, and they just show the close-up, and the ankle just, the angle's horrible. I mean, you just see the ankle just, going that 90-degree angle. I was like, oh, God. It's ghastly. Yeah, you definitely need to see that when you get the tape. And also, I want to make a quick mention, also, Sunday on Galavision, they're going to be doing a special, it's the Father's Day show. Actually, not Father's Day. It's going to be on Father's Day, but it was show taped a year ago. It's the AAA versus not versus, but it's the AAA EMLL card from Plaza de Toros, which it had some promotion versus promotion stuff and mixed matches and things like that, which actually I heard was not really that good of a card, and it is not aired in the United States, but it's going to air 1:30 Eastern Time, and I think that the graphics said 6:30 Pacific, but Brian, when you watch the tape, I mean, it's advertised all over the show, and I'm sure other people will note if I'm wrong about those times. I guess we should go to Baltimore from last night for SmackDown, and we can comment on that stuff. First of all, for Sunday Night Heat this coming Sunday, Jeff Hardy over Taka Michinoku to keep the title, light heavyweight. Jackie beats Ivory. X Factor beats APA when Albert interferes and does the Baldo bomb on Bradshaw. So Mr. Albert's getting the big push for all the reasons that we've talked about that probably aren't good reasons. But
he's big.
Anyway, real big. And Dudley's beat Goodfather and Bull Buchanan. So anyway, SmackDown starts with a recap of the show, and I did not hear, like Bob Mould suggested on the show yesterday, where they really play up, those bumps and make it like this great, classic match to get something out of all the stuff those guys did. My impression was they didn't do that. But they did.
I mean, at the very least, they could have done something like they did with Edge and Christian and the Hardys when they had that first, I think it was just a ladder match. I can't remember what the match was. But anyway, afterwards, the next night, they came out,
it was a ladder match, the very
went
first,
down to the ring like they were handicapped, and they had the standing ovation, and they were put over, and that's the way to do it.
They didn't do it. Okay, they didn't do it, but they did show some clips of it at the beginning sequence. Anyway, the show opens with Benoit and Jericho defending the tag team titles, beating Edge and Christian, which I heard was a long match, somewhere between, I think it was like 12-minute match, let's see, what was the finish? Christian spears Edge, so Jericho hits the lion salt on Edge for the pin, and Edge shoved down Christian after the match. I heard this was the best match on the show. Then, let's see, more Spike and Molly, which actually leads to the main event for those of you who don't know. Believe it or not.
Yes.
Big Show beat Raven. So Big Show is one of the final 8 in the King of the Ring. This is the King of the Ring qualifier. And the other guy who got in was Tajiri, which we'll talk about in a second.
Maybe he'll eat 4 pizzas before the semifinals.
What did you say?
Maybe he'll eat 4 pizzas before the semifinals.
The pizza story, huh?
He seemed to have a lot of good luck eating those 2 extra large pizzas before going out and facing Raven. But he's got that fast metabolism.
The pizza story. I knew that was going to come. Anyway, Steve Austin.
We'll be here now forever.
Yeah, we probably will. Steve Austin spent the entire show trying to get people to sign a petition to stop that main event, which after the reaction that it got on Monday, I wonder if that's a shoot. But anyway, and after the way they booked Jericho on Monday, as a matter of fact, too. So maybe he's doing it to protect his buy rate string. Anyway, he was running around. Sergeant Slaughter signed the petition, which I don't know how he did that. And
what a badass that Austin turned into.
Yeah.
Going around with a petition now.
Yeah, to get out of the main event. That isn't like, I mean, it was a match with The Rock, that'd be one thing, but it didn't. Matt Hardy beat K-Quick to keep the European title after a messed up twist of fate. I heard this match was kind of sloppy. And K-Quick kind of teased a heel turn. Like anyone's going to care, but what the hell. He's on the roster, do something with him, I mean, then Austin.
You have to kind of tease a personality first before you can go babyface or heel.
Yeah. He's got that rap going with him. Austin pressured Jim Ross under duress to sign the petition. So JR signed the petition. X Factor came out and said that Albert, later tonight, was going to defeat Kane for the Intercontinental title, which he didn't do. And Angle came out, and Angle they kind of agreed that Angle had a match with The Undertaker, so they would help him, and in return, he would help them. So, let's see. Then Regal tells Tajiri that he's got a King of the Ring qualifying match, which comes on later. So anyway, Angle and Undertaker. Angle wins on a disqualification when Undertaker lays him out with the ring steps. This is for the DQ. Then they added some stipulations for this match at King of the Ring, which actually we only have 2 matches for King of the Ring, and here we are, 12 days away with 2 matches. And the Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon match will be a street fight. So I guess that gives them more leeway on things that they can do. Anyway, X-Pac and Justin Credible run in to help Kurt Angle, and Undertaker, I think he chokeslams both of them. He chokeslams one of them twice, and then he last rides one or both of them. But he basically kills them both. Which, see, now this is what they should be doing with Chris Jericho. Is like guys run in, like he beats somebody, and then guys run in, like X-Pac and Justin Credible. Brian, you follow me on this one? Things gonna happen?
Yeah.
And he puts them both in the lion tank and lays them all. Kind of like how they got over Austin when he would stun everybody,
Yep.
And that's how you get guys over to be main eventers. As opposed
the funny
to
thing is, just looking at this show, you have Undertaker and you have Rhino from Monday, and just like a whole list of people that the way they're portrayed on TV are far more deserving of getting a title shot than Jericho and Benoit. But
Rhino,
they're going to wonder why the show does not draw.
Yeah, Rhino dropped
place to blame.
Yeah, Rhino dropped his title. It's like first he beats. It's like I'll talk about this. So Test beat Rhino to win the hardcore title due to distraction from Stacy Keibler and Shane McMahon. Stacy Keibler was dancing, and I guess it affected Rhino, but not Test. And Test beat him.
So does that mean Test will be the number 1 contender now if Chris Jericho wins? Because Rhino beat Jericho 3 times and then lost to Test?
There is a logic in what you just said, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Because Test is going to WCW, obviously, which is another thing that's got people excited all over the world. You know, the one thing is, if Rhino, exactly, if they were going to push Rhino as being this number one contender, he shouldn't be losing to Test. Nothing should be happening. You know what they're doing is they're making everyone the same. And see, that's not, I mean, it's okay when you have a system, okay? When you have a booking system, I think it's actually kind of cool. There's two types of booking systems. Well, there's a million types of booking systems, but two different kinds of theories. One is that you've got your pecking order, and the guy who's on top of the other guy will always beat the other guy. That's kind of like the old All Japan thing where it takes a guy forever to actually get the big win, but when he gets the big win, it's like a big thing. Or the old St. Louis thing where, I mean, you pretty much know going in who's going to win most of the matches except for the main event on the card. But the whole idea is the main event draws the money, and everyone's established in their position and the guys are being built for the next main event, and that's their only purpose is to keep building new main events. Okay? Or you have the thing which is kind of more of a New Japan thing or like a WWF thing where, you know, you have all these guys and they can all beat each other. And that may even be a better system, but the thing is that you have to be careful to your you protect your money matches in either system. And that's what they're not doing here is they're not protecting their money matches. The money match on this show is Austin, Benoit, and Jericho, obviously. Okay? An Angle, I guess, and Undertaker, I guess, being the other two matches. You know, Angle with Shane and Undertaker with the Stalker. So those are the guys who are on top on the pay-per-view. So this month, those are the guys who you have to protect. And everybody else, they can go beat each other and surprise you and swerve you, and that's cool. Okay? But those guys got to be protected. But instead, they're doing a system where Jericho, you know, can lose. Granted, it was a handicap match. And then the guy who beat him can lose. And so you've got this whole thing where, with the exception of Undertaker, who's protected, and Austin, who's protected, everybody else is basically the same, and you're not creating stars. You're creating a whole bunch of, you know, mid-card guys.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's fine to take Austin and do, you know, jobs and tag team matches to prove that Austin, of all people, can really lose to anybody at any time. I think that's one of the things that,
shouldn't be
got
anybody
Rock
at any
over
time.
because,
It should.
Well, the thing with Rock was Rock could have a match with Val Venus, and people would go for the near falls because Rock was really beaten by a lot of people. But that's fine to do with Steve Austin, but it's not fine to do with Benoit and Jericho because people already believe that these guys can lose to anybody and they're going to lose to Austin. So they're not the people you want to do this with.
Well, I think with Austin, I mean, Austin can can lose in a tag match, but it should only be for a purpose. Like if Austin, let's say on Monday's show.
Yeah, to Benoit or Jericho.
Yeah, to Benoit or Jericho. But if Austin were to be in a tag match with, say, the Dudleys, and Bubba Ray Dudley would pin Austin, I mean, that serves zero purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, like your champion, everything that you do with the champion should serve a purpose. Anyway, Tajiri beat Crash Holly, which I heard was a hell of a match. And I heard Steve Regal's facial expressions, or William Regal's facial expressions were tremendous. He did all of his spots, the tarantula, the kicks. Just heard he looked great. And so he's now in King of the Ring as well. And so now we got 8 guys and no brackets. They will be trying to come up with brackets on Monday, which is a good time to come up with brackets, I suppose. Kevin Kelly interviewed Test, and all of a sudden, you know, poor Test, you know, they have no respect for him. They started airing stalker footage. This time, Sarah Undertaker was swimming in a pool in a bikini, so then there you go. She's the next Sable. Then we got Austin approaches Spike and Molly Holly to sign the petition. Spike is about to sign the petition when Austin tells him to get his bimbo girlfriend to sign it, and Spike gets mad because Austin called Molly a bimbo. He tore up the contract, which got Austin really mad. So he went into Regal's office and demanded a match with Spike Dudley, which in fact is the main event. The semi-main event is Kane beating Albert with a clean pin, I think. He blocks the Baldo bomb and chokeslams him. And I don't know where Kurt Angle's not involved in this. Wasn't he supposed to, help? I guess he didn't fulfill his part of the bargain. Anyway, Austin and Spike Dudley is the main event, and Spike gets a little bit of offense in, but he's given the stunner, and he's given the crossface, the Lion Tamer. Austin's using everyone's finishers, and the stunner, pins Spike Dudley. Then Molly comes in, and Austin comes in with a chair and chases her off. Then he starts beating up on Spike Dudley some more. She comes back in. Austin got the chairs ready to chase her again, but Benoit and Jericho, both with chairs, hit the ring, and the show ends. So that's the story from last night. Any comments?
Wow. Austin and Spike Dudley in the main event.
Yeah.
But Spike got elevated because at least he was in there with Steve Austin.
Not. Yeah, I know. Anyway, let's see. The 0-1 pay-per-view will take place late tonight, actually tomorrow. It's going to be a bomb. Shinya Hashimoto versus Tom Howard. God, could you believe Tom Howard is in the main event of a Japanese pay-per-view?
Is it going to be on pay-per-view? Is that for certain?
That's what I was told. I asked last night, and I go, is this thing going to, because the guy sends me the tapes, who apologized for getting to turn the tape on the New Japan show and me missing the first 3 matches. He goes, I pushed the button, but I noticed the tape wasn't moving right at the end of the Tanaka Kakihara match, which is probably one of the best matches on the show. He goes, when I noticed, so I saw the rest of it, just missed 2 matches that I probably really wanted to see. And he just goes, but don't worry, I'll be taping Friday's pay-per-view, or whatever it is, the 0-1.
What a trade-off. At least it'll get 1 buy.
I know. And I go, that thing's going to be on pay-per-view? And he goes, yeah, there was some controversy about whether it would, but it's going to be on pay-per-view. And no one's going to buy it. Why? And no one, can you imagine they're in that Osaka Castle Hall? That is going to be a sad night. Those poor guys. Anyway, what other stuff is going on here? Let's see. Yeah, the Jericho. Chili Willie was on. Actually, he got a tryout Monday night and Tuesday night. And he got a little bit of a pop, but I heard his match was not all that good. And let me see, what else? That's any other big news? Any other small news? That's kind of it.
If there's any news.
Okay. As far as Japanese rumors go, I guess there's something on there about All Japan, New Japan. I don't know anything new other than I'm thinking about 2 months ago, Weekly Fight, which is one of the Japanese magazines, reported that by the end of the year, that New Japan would buy All Japan. I checked into that, and they just said, someone checked into it for me over there and just said, that's just a story, and don't believe it. So anyway, that is out on the internet, and I'm not saying, I don't know if it's true or not, and it actually makes perfect sense that Mrs. Baba would want to get out and sell to New Japan, because they did a big house on the 8th, but if you look at their spot show attendance, it's terrible. And, unless they use New Japan guys, they really have nothing left in that promotion. So it's a logical story. Whether it's a true story or not, I don't know, but hopefully by tomorrow, I'll have some news from Japan on what the hell's going on in Japan, today. Okay, this is from Ed. I heard that at that AAA EMLL show, the older wrestlers started to shoot on some of the younger guys, and this led to a fist fight in the locker room, and somebody was hit with a bat. There was problems in the locker room after that show, between the wrestlers of both companies, which is why there's, among the many reasons why there hasn't been a joint show since. I think there were some problems in the ring, minor problems. It wasn't that bad though. In the ring, there was some heat outside the ring. Was Raven a good worker as Scotty the Body? He was hilarious. I mean, as far as he was a great color commentator as Scotty the Body. Good worker. Yeah. Better than he is now, actually. Why do I have the feeling that we're going to see Big Show annihilate Tajiri in the next round of King of the Ring?
Big Show is big and Tajiri is from another land.
I think that you may be right here. This is from Eric Trainer, who goes, to help move through more calls, I've written a quick section for the 3 most asked questions, and I hope all listeners find this helpful. Insert any wrestler's name here on steroids. Dave and Brian have no concrete evidence of this wrestler using steroids. Therefore, to avoid slander lawsuits, they will avoid saying the wrestler's on steroids. Having said that, most likely, yes, this wrestler's on steroids, and a lot of them. He's had more roids than a Preparation H test group. He takes steroids, bovine growth hormone, and is experimenting with chugging Miracle Grow plant food. That's good. He has surgically implanted inflated balloons under his biceps and replaces calves with those of Clydesdales. Bagwell tried
people
that.
do that.
Yeah, Bagwell did that with the calves. What's the deal now?
That's so funny to think of a wrestler who wears boots that go up past his calf, getting calf implants.
It was very, very funny, except that he got a lot of health problems from that one. Surgically implanted biceps. I mean, I've heard people say that. Do guys really do that?
Well, you can get synthol injected in there. It's not like having a surgically. You're not really adding a muscle in there, but you're adding stuff in there.
Okay, doesn't the synthol injection go away, though? It's just a temporary
you have to
thing?
keep doing it.
Yeah, okay, because I know, before, bodybuilding contests, I've heard of people, injecting it into their delts and things like that, but it's not, something that, it's not their delts are going to stay big for, a week.
Yeah,
it's something you do right. Yeah, right. Something. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, he
I've
also
heard of
asked
implants. I've heard of pec, calf, and I think that's it.
Okay, now what about that guy? Remember that guy, what's his name, Josh? Jake Strauss. Remember the guy who was on WCW once with Paul Orndorff chasing him around?
Oh, with the arms, yeah. Yep.
I mean, that guy had to do something because that was not natural.
No, it was not.
But anyway, let's see. He also asked only to be filmed through a fisheye lens to give him that extra edge. Yeah, that's the Hogan one. Only on a certain side. Did you ever hear the stories when Hogan, the guy who did, this is about 17, 18 years ago, Hogan was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and they did a bunch of photos, they did a big photo shoot, and the guy who did the photos, well, I think it was Walter Ayus, but I could be wrong about the photographer, afterwards, like years later, they asked, like, who was the most difficult subject that you ever worked with for taking photos? And he said Hulk Hogan, because it was like he was insistent on only being photographed at certain angles because he wanted to hide, like, that one of his biceps was weaker than the other. Like, anyone's going to notice. Well, I mean, they'll notice.
How about shot from the ground so you can't see the bald spot on top of his head?
Did insert any wrestler's name here know beforehand what was going to happen in Montreal? Although many historians and linguists have been reporting on the growing rift between the French and English-speaking factions in Quebec prior to the incident, very few wrestlers saw a provincial referendum to vote for the single language coming. Oh, you mean the Survivor Series? Yes, everybody knew except for Brett. Well, Brett and Michael Cole, who just found out this week he doesn't work for the World Wildlife Fund. As Nicole Bass will tell you, the WF is a place filled with lighthearted, ribbing, and harmless pranks. Just as all new wrestlers are the target for jokes, so are all wrestlers who are leaving the company. Earlier in the week, Foley had placed saran wrap over Brett's toilet seat, and Owen had lined the inside of Brett's sunglasses to leave rings around his eyes. That Sunday alone, Brett had to answer 6 phone calls about the operational status of his refrigerator, and a yet-to-be-signed Matt Bloom being trapped in a can. Oh, that's pretty funny. The screw job was just Vince McMahon's way of saying that Brett was one of the boys, and Vince was one of the boys, and Vince could out-prank anyone in the locker room. Brett's after-match outburst was simply his way of congratulating Vince on his craftiness, and the punch was simply a spirited high-five that was poorly aimed. Shawn Michaels rushed from the ring not because he was surprised by what had happened or worried about what Brett would do in retaliation, but he had to hurry to place a banana in Brett's tailpipe without being noticed. Okay. What does it mean when you say a wrestler is in no condition to appear on television? Again, to avoid slander suits, please insert any of the following euphemisms and draw your own conclusions. They were carpooling with Bryan Adams and Brian Clark.
Ooh.
They accidentally inhaled a dose of Mongolian mist. They were in negotiations with Scott Hall. They were scouting talent in Colombia. Oh, they were cooking a different form of The Rock. They were rehabbing their glaucoma injury. They were finding another H for Triple H. They were soon to be auctioning no-show appearances on eBay, and they were dealing with their own Dale Torborgs. That's pretty good, Dave. Get that one? Yeah, I'm sure you do. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. I'm mailing to say how disgusted I am with the WWF women's title situation. Right now, the division has some of its best-ever performers, like Molly Holly, who for me is the best North American woman in the ring. It's because you haven't seen a lot of them in the ring.
They're best ever female performers?
No, just the best now. She didn't say ever. Or he didn't say ever. If he said ever, that'd be bad. Yet they put the belt on Lazy China, who then proceeds to bury every other competitor. Simple facts are that China is the worst in the ring woman. No, Stephanie's the worst in the ring woman. And then Terry Runnels. But anyway, yet she's the champion. It makes no sense to me. Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense if you think about it. She's got, she's China. Oh, and one more thing. I failed to see the attraction. Oh, this is about, one more thing about Y2J. I failed to see the attraction. Sure, he's decent. His ring work sucks. He screws up too often. His moves don't look, okay. If they heard it all.
All right, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, this is from, Michael Bowman, who goes, he's thinking about the possibilities of the Undertaker's stalker. He goes, I know Vince does the voice, but who could it possibly be? Probably not Kane or Paul Bearer. How about Raven or Steven Richards? No. Taking a mid-carder.
The Steven Richards Undertaker feud. That would really light that company on fire.
Yep. I was listening to your show with Bob Mould, and you mentioned something about a previous walkout before the Sullivan incident. I'm guessing that maybe he meant the incident where Raven left in August of '99. Anyway, great show. The guy seems real smart and nice. That was a great show yesterday. We got tons of positive feedback on that show. This is from Scott Keith, who says, I really don't understand some of the booking choices on SmackDown, although the one that really bugs me is Rhino losing to Test out of nowhere. So Rhino has beaten Jericho 3 times in a row. He gets positioned for the upper card in one show, and the very next show jobs to a guy who has an entire book devoted to making fun of him. I mean, I don't mind Test. I don't mind Rhino. I wish they'd just make up their mind and get behind someone for more than 3 days if they want to seriously push someone. Everyone on the net was sick of Triple H by the end of 1999, but you knew damn well with him that the WF wasn't going to stop the insane overpush until he was the biggest star in the business. Well, close. One of the biggest 3. Anyway, he's out for 3 months, and he's still in the second hour updating us on how much his knee hurts. Sure, he's great, but he's also on the shelf for the foreseeable future, and he isn't going to make the WF any money with vignettes from the doctor's office. When do we see that kind of effort being put into getting some of the mid-card guys over to fill the void? I suppose the mentality is they're waiting for The Rock's return, but what if he doesn't return? What if he trips on a cable and breaks his leg on the way to the arena? Didn't Randleman do something like that, remember? Yeah. It can happen. Kevin Randleman, remember he slipped on a
can.
No. It was actually poles in the back while he was running. You know, he does like a pre-warm-up jog or whatever, and he went through a set of curtains and hit these row of poles and fell down and had a concussion.
He didn't yield?
No, he didn't yield. He never saw them.
Yes, he wasn't looking. Anyway, what if he comes back and, God forbid, the fans don't want to cheer him anymore? They'll cheer him when he comes back.
Let me say something about Hunter real quick. Just from watching the rehab things the last couple of weeks, and particularly the one they showed on Raw, this guy is going to be a gigantic babyface unless they drop the ball. And if they drop the ball, it's all over.
Yeah, but they
I mean, look what they have being handed to them right here.
Okay, but they got the WCW feud being handed to them, and I can't say they've done anything to make me interested in it. And it was handed to them.
That's why I'm worried.
I mean, they had Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan handed to them. You know, they're much better when it's not handed to them. They're better when they come up with the stuff on their own. You know? I mean, WCW had Buff Bagwell as this giant babyface handed to them, and they just had to swerve everyone. That was such a great swerve when he got out of that wheelchair and turned heel on his mom. Oh, man, that drew so much money.
I know, anyway. It really did. And it made her career, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, for Vince to bank his return bank his company on the return of one guy is a risky proposition at best. I think, especially when he can or won't turn a backup babyface into a big star to take his place. Let's see.
I feel like on Monday when they showed the Rock thing, and Jim Ross immediately goes, "When is he coming back?" Like he was desperate for it.
Maybe sooner than you think. How big will the pop be when Rock returns and cuts off Austin's "My name is Stone Cold Steve Austin" line with "It doesn't matter what your name is"? Yeah, there'll be a big pop. That won't save the company, though. Is the WF not caring too much about the tag team titles now? It seems they've ignored them for a whole month when Triple H and Austin had them. Actually, that elevated them when Triple H and Austin had them, because it took them from being a mid-card belt to a main event belt. And now that Benoit and Jericho have them, they haven't really had to defend them. The match tomorrow night on SmackDown against Edge and Christian should be a good match. So if Vince has no desire to push Jericho and Benoit as singles main eventers, why not push them as a tag team? Because then they'll have never gained, they won't have gained anything, will they? They'll be exactly where they were. Okay. Seeing as the tag division isn't happening as much as it used to be, what do you guys think? All right. Anyway, we got Mike Modest on the line. Michael, how are you today?
Good, man. How about you?
Doing really good.
Excellent.
Well, how is, I guess, weeks before you were on the air, we mentioned that you've probably had more luck than almost anyone in wrestling, and most of it's bad in the last 2 years. I mean, you've got we even talked about this yesterday with Bob Mould, who was praising your work and mentioning about how, in fact, we were talking about your interview ability that no one knows about unless they've actually seen you live, and the fact that your timing of your WCW deals was like perfect. Every time you came in, it was guaranteed that within 3 weeks there was going to be a big change in the company, and they would forget it, and the new people coming in wouldn't know about you. So
I couldn't have timed it better.
Yeah.
Couldn't have timed it better.
Now, what's going on with you right now? I mean, I guess the big thing we know is that you had the tryout for Noah last week.
Yeah, I had the tryout with Noah, and that went really, really well. I got to tell you, I'm more comfortable with a Japanese style, anyways, and it just really comes natural to me, and I felt like I just don't know how it could have gone better. But I haven't gotten any real feedback yet, so I don't really know anything, concrete, but I feel very good about it.
When you were in the ring, did you just like do one match with Donovan for like 7 minutes, or what was the tryout like?
Yeah, I was in the ring with Donovan for about 7-8 minutes, and then after that, I went back in with Max Justice and wrestled Justice for like 5 or 6 minutes, and there was one match in between us, and that went okay as well. But Max took some time off, and he had been out of the ring for about 1.5 years, and he's just now starting to come back, so he's still a little rusty. But I still thought that match went really well too. And then Donovan did the same thing. He got in with Dilip as well, which I don't know.
Tell everyone a little bit about Dilip, because I don't think most people know about him.
Dilip's a monster. He's a 400-pound bodybuilder from India, and he's 7'2". He's just a monster. Not an ounce of fat on the guy. And he was there as well, but he's already spoken for, like, we're talking to a couple of different promotions about him right now. Not to mention the fact that Hollywood's looking at him too, for movie roles and stuff like that.
And now, how's his English? Because I remember talking to you about him before, and they were having some trouble communicating with him because of his English not being that good.
Yeah, it's actually picked up really well. Like he understands the wrestling English very well. Any move that you call, practically he knows. And the nice thing about him is he's still young. He's 22 or 23, and moves around really well. Can do things that most giants have never been able to do. I mean, there's just no way he's not going to be a successful entity in this business. I mean, he's a shoo-in.
And did he start out training with you guys?
What's that?
Did he start out training with you guys?
Yeah, he started out training with us, and he's still training. We don't feel like he's quite ready yet. We don't want to, get him out there and then have him be a El Gigante letdown, So we don't want anybody putting a.
He needs to be a giant Silva.
Yeah, we don't want any giant Silvas on our hands.
That was one thing with Silva is WWF rushed him on TV.
Yeah.
Although now that we've seen him, I guess it really doesn't matter anyway, because he wasn't going to make it in the WWF. There's something he's missing.
Yeah.
Not athletic ability. I mean, he's actually a pretty decent athlete, but something about, I guess, charisma or something. I don't know what it is.
It might be charisma.
Yeah.
It's true what they say about, and this is one of the things I've really never understood about the business. They'll hire a guy with a body and try to make a wrestler out of him rather than hiring a wrestler and saying, get a body. Because anybody can, work out and build a body. You just have to, have that kind of dedication and eat right and everything. I've made a tremendous turnaround in the last 2 years on my body. I just got serious and I really, I've been hitting the gym. In fact, I just got back from the gym, and I'm going again tonight. But wrestlers really, I think, for the most part, are born. You just either have it or you don't. And in some cases, it's just impossible to install into somebody. Baracus, I think, was a perfect example of that.
Now, you've trained a lot of wrestlers, and I'm sure you've had your frustrations with guys who you thought could make it, but somehow mentally it never clicked. They had the physical ability, but mentally it didn't click. And what do you think, as far as for a guy to make it? I mean, I think the most important thing is a certain mental drive. But do you think? But what else do you, when you've seen, because you've been around, just as an example, Spike Dudley. I mean, you've been around him basically from the start, and Spike Dudley was, especially when he came in. I mean, first of all, he came in as a manager because nobody in those days would think that a guy that small could be a wrestler.
Yeah.
And, he turned out to be a good worker, and he's in the WWF, and he's in the main event of SmackDown tomorrow night. But it's funny because of all the guys that probably came through, like you would say, well, Dilip is a can't miss, and Spike, nice guy, drive, but he's going to have to be a manager because that's the only way. And look at him, there's just no way of picking what's going to happen, I guess.
Yeah. Roland was actually the first one to really push Spike towards trying to make it as a wrestler. And the reason being was he was just a scrapper. He wasn't afraid to get in the ring with anybody and really go. I mean, as you know, at APW, we're real big on amateur wrestling. And I remember one of Tony Jones's first classes. Tony Jones is a legitimate heavyweight shooter from San Francisco State. I mean, the guy's got, credentials up the rear. And Tony had gone through the entire beginner's class. What he did was he just took on each student and pinned each guy. And Spike was, 145, 150 pounds at the time. Here's Tony weighing in at 260 pounds, and Spike's like, man, let me have some. And he got in the ring and he went. I mean, Tony still beat his ass, but I mean, that's just how he is. He's just got that kind of attitude. Like, I mean, he just doesn't care, And then on top of it, just the fact that, Spike knows how to be respectful. He knows how to act in the locker room and stuff. And I think all of those things combined just, and then a lot of luck as well, made for a very successful career. And I'm really happy for the guy, especially, when he, I know he got pretty beat up in ECW and he had some knee problems, I think, and everything. And so I'm glad to see that he's getting his opportunity to make some good money and really make a name for himself.
What's from your own career perspective? I mean, are you feeling now with the tryout? Are you feeling like, say, more up than like say before that? Because you kind of had the WCW thing, and then when WWF bought WCW, at least at first it didn't seam like they were interested in you. Your contract ran out. They cycled you out. And have you had? I heard somewhere reading that you had spoken to Jim Ross as well.
Yeah, I didn't actually personally speak with him, but Johnny Ace told me that he had spoken to Jim Ross about me. And that Jim Ross said that he would definitely be interested in taking another look at me, for the WCW and stuff. And so I sent a tape out. Haven't heard anything back yet. I'm still hoping. But I'm not holding my breath either. WWF. I mean, it's a great company, and I mean, you can't run a wrestling company better than they do. And right now they have so much talent and stuff that I'm certainly not waiting by the phone. That's for sure. They can kind of pick and choose right now.
We're going to start with Dan in Chicago. Dan, what's going on?
Hey, guys, what's up? Hey, Mike, how you doing? Mike?
Hey, Dan, what's up?
How you doing, Mike?
Good, Dan. How about you, man?
Good. It's honor to talk to you. The first time I actually heard of you was Beyond the Mat, the movie. How do you feel when people tell you that's how when they first saw you?
Oh, man, there's a couple of, things that are a little embarrassing, the scene with the room and, and the cat.
Your room.
Barry Blaustein, he knocks on the door, and I thought it was one of the boys, and I was in there just crashed, and he knocks on the door, and I said, yeah, come right in, and he comes in with the damn camera, and I was like, oh, this guy. But I guess it wasn't as bad as, catching Terry Funk in his underwear, getting out of bed.
When he woke up.
But for the most part, man, I mean, that movie has been a total positive thing for me and totally positive for my career. I mean, it's nice to tell people, hey, you want to see me? You tell people you're a pro wrestler, and they say, okay, yeah, well, what WrestleMania have you been in? Well, I haven't been in a WrestleMania, but at least I was in a wrestling movie that I can tell people to go down to the video store and pick up. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. My buddy, Tim and I, we were watching WCW one night, and he didn't even know who you were.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the guy from Beyond the Mat.
Cool.
He watched the movie, and he thought you were a pretty good wrestler as well. Listen, guys, got an idea on who the stalker might be?
Okay.
Now, just hear me out. What about Mick Foley?
Right. That's not the idea, but
what do you?
I don't think he wants to wrestle The Undertaker right now. I mean, I think that if he's going to wrestle, and I'm sure he will, it's going to be more of a comedy situation, and that's not a comedy angle.
Okay. Because I was kind of thinking he could get kind of, maybe not now, obviously, he's maybe not in shape or whatever, but the reason why I would think it was him, because he's trying to, all of a sudden he comes back with all this is going on, okay, and it just happens to be King of the Ring time. And he wants to put Undertaker...
Oh, yeah, because of the match, yeah.
Right, and he wants to put the Undertaker's wife through hell. Huh?
There's something about Foley, though, that I don't think anybody would buy him as a stalker.
I would. I would buy it as a stalker. Seriously. He's being Mr. Nice Guy. I mean, he's always been that way anyway, but...
Dan, is there something about you that we don't know?
No, I'm not a stalker. I'm just saying. I would buy it that he is, though. I mean, I think it'd be interesting because, like I was going to say, was Undertaker put his wife through hell by watching her husband get chokeslammed through a cage, and Mick Foley could say it as payback.
If he was still an active wrestler, actually, he could pull that one off.
Yeah.
But I just don't. I mean, really, I don't see him coming back in that kind of a role. I mean, I think that physically.
Well, that's the whole point, though, isn't it? Though Like something you wouldn't think of this guy being a stalker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just think. Yeah, I just think that physically he doesn't want to go through with it. I mean, he's taken enough bumps for like 2 lifetimes, and he has his money, and I think he's better off. I think he's better off not wrestling right now and being a public relations person for the WWF, because I think he's like really valuable in that role.
You know, Dave, I think not only can Mick not take too many more of those bumps off the top of the cage, but I'm not sure that I could stand watching too many more of those bumps off the top of the cage, man. I hope that he does kind of chill out on the insanity.
I hope everybody chills out.
Yeah.
Did you watch the match on Monday with Benoit and Kurt Angle?
That was awesome.
Awesome match, man.
It was an awesome match, but I thought that it was like, I thought they did too much.
It's one of those situations. I just saw a match between Kobashi and Akiyama, and it was one of the.
Was it the one
matches.
from like December?
Yeah.
The one where they were doing all the suplexes on the ramp?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And how long did the match go? Like 45, 60 minutes or something like. I mean, it was a long.
It was like 40 minutes at least. It was real long. Yeah.
And Kabashi's eye was all swelled shut, and I mean, I just don't know how you can come back and top something like that. And the steel cage thing was kind of the same thing. I mean, good God, it was an incredible match.
The thing that worries me about a steel cage now is it used to be that when you had a cage match, everybody expected blood.
Yeah.
And that was easy. You cut your head, right? Now it's like you have a cage match and everybody expects, someone's going to go off this cage, or someone's going to,
do something,
take a bump through the
insane.
announce table, or something that's not, something simple.
Yeah.
The one thing that we brought up, the last, I guess it's been 3 weeks of WF television, they've had probably the best television main events that they've had in the history of the company, probably.
Yeah, they've had some good TV.
Yeah. Let's go to Alvin in Austin. Alvin, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Brian? Hey, Dave. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Just a quick question. Since there's only a single promotion in this nation, how does it help people who are out in the Indies? How does it hurt people who are out in the Indies?
Actually, to be honest with you, I've gotten more indie bookings since the closing of WCW. It's insane. But there's more small groups that are thinking, well, hell, if there's only one company, there might be room for me now. So there's a lot of little startups happening, and so, I'm keeping pretty busy on the indie scene, so I don't think it necessarily hurts indie wrestling at all. If anything, I think it will bolster indie wrestling, because a lot of people, although WWF product's been really good as of late, a lot of people still, prefer the older style of wrestling, and a lot of people would like to see more of a Japanese influence, and so you can still go to the indie shows and get your Lucha Libre fix or your Stiffer All Japan style. You can still go and see that kind of stuff on the indie show. So I don't think it hurts the indies at all. I think it hurts the boys. I think definitely, Vince being the only show in town, I think that hurts the boys for sure. And I think in a way it hurts the WWF too. I think even Vince would like the competition. I think that's healthy, and I think it's better for the business all the way around.
I'm sure he would now. I don't know, 2 months ago.
I think that 3 months ago he was happy as hell to get rid of the competition, but now it's like, we can get somebody else out here.
Yeah.
There's something else I have to ask too, since there's a whole lot of people right now looking head into wrestling, and you're over at All Pro. So what I'm asking is, since All Pro is pretty much looked at as the premier wrestling school in the nation, excuse me about that.
No.
Never mind.
No, go ahead. Take your time.
Okay, let's go to
Why is that?
Oh, so sorry.
Since All Pro is pretty much looked at as the premier wrestling school in the whole nation, but I don't know why.
You don't know why?
Yes, sir.
Why is it looked at as the premier school?
Yes.
Because we're producing a lot of good talent. People come like even Noah coming in and checking out our talent. The one thing they did have to say was they couldn't believe how fundamentally sound all of our guys are. I mean, it's real simple. I mean, we've got a 2-year training course. Most schools got a 3-month training course. It's not too big of a secret why we produce the best talent. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. I think it's fundamental.
Thank you very much.
All righty.
Okay, it's
another big negative with just one company is, in fact, you pretty much mentioned this, but just so few spots now. If you're an indie guy that really wants to make it big, there's only one company to make it big at.
Yeah. it's that's for sure. And the thing is it limits people to different styles, and you kind of have to go out there with that with the WWF style. I was told one time by one of the agents that that it was a horse and pony show, that you had to have the gimmick, and you have to have all the you have to have the undefinable it, and
mm-hmm.
I just wish that undefinable it was, can the guy wrestle or not, as opposed to
that's part of it though.
Yeah, it's part of it, but it's not to me, at least, I don't think it's the main thing. I don't think it's the only, the most important thing that they look at. Although they certainly do have talent. So yeah, I mean, of course it's better. I mean, I really wish, Bischoff, or I've heard rumors of Macho Man and Hogan, and everybody and their brother starting up something, and I wish someone would hurry up and do it.
Yeah. I mean, have you been contacted by people going like, sit tight, or contacted by people going like, hey, we've got, because I mean, the one thing that I'm hearing, is like foreign tours, which theoretically, I mean, I think that there is a market, because the one thing WWF is not doing is touring, and their TV is everywhere, so there is an interest in seeing American pro wrestlers, and a lot of, if you had some WWF names and some, WCW had a lot of international TV,
Yeah.
Like the idea of like bringing WCW guys that are not under contract to WWF and send them on a tour to say, whether, anywhere where their TV was, I'm throwing out a country like South Africa. I mean, there's probably something to that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I went out to Ireland, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, here I am. I'm really, I walk out of my own house and I'm nobody special here, but in Ireland, where, they haven't discovered the benefits of physical fitness and working out yet, really, especially in some of the smaller towns. I mean, I had people following me around in the store just based on my look. They hadn't even seen me on TV, but they just saw that I had muscles, and they just figured I must be somebody special. And I just couldn't believe, how well I did selling T-shirts and Polaroids and everything over there in Ireland. It was incredible, and I'm going back again in November. I can't believe it. I mean, there's a huge market for overseas stuff. The thing that's a bummer is I was talking to the guy that was promoting the shows, and I said, why don't you guys try to get TV out here? And he said, well, because it's cheaper for our TV stations just to buy WWF TV and run it. Even though it's not something local and it's nothing that the Irish people can go and see in person, it's still just a lot cheaper, to do. So,
here's an interesting, Mark, concept is producing and I guess Savage sort of talked about this, producing a television show with largely the idea of selling it cheaply in foreign countries as a leader to doing tours, but, with high enough production values where people will think, hey, these are American stars coming, because American stars coming to your country is probably a bigger deal outside the United States than inside the United States.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, like I said, man, I couldn't believe, I felt like royalty over there. It was incredible. It was bizarre, walking down the street and having people, whistle at you and just coming up off the street and just, coming to talk to you because they know you're an American. It was incredible.
How do you feel about going to work for Stampede? I guess you're going to do that in a couple of weeks.
I'm real excited about it, man. I mean, the company's got so much history and everything. I'm excited about that, and then I'm going to be wrestling Bruce Hart, and now I've got the All Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship, and then it's going to be like a belt versus belt thing up there against Bruce. So it's pretty exciting, man. I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be up there like 4 or 5 days.
Are you like, is it just like a 4 or 5 day thing, or are you planning on coming back for a couple of times there? Or?
Well, I'm going to be staying at Stu's house, and I was told by Blake Norton that, we'd talk some business and stuff, so I'm hoping that it's a continual thing. I certainly would love to keep going up there and work with them on a, semi-regular basis.
Now, how is the financial end as far as, flying someone in? I mean, can you get cheap enough flights to make it kind of worth it? Like, I know you've been in Chicago, and you've been, like, in a lot of places in the United States, Pennsylvania. Yeah. I mean, it hasn't been just, like, a few years ago, not all that many years ago, you were basically working Northern California and nowhere else.
Yeah. I think with Beyond the Mat and also the exposure with WCW and stuff, and it's so funny because I didn't get that much exposure from WCW, but just the fact that I had a contract with them, I guess it adds more credibility to me, and people are, willing to pay the airfare. And if you get the airfare early enough, it's not too bad. Like I can get a flight to Chicago for about $300, $250, $300 if you get it early enough and you catch a deal, and things are going real good up in Chicago now too. They've got TV with MCW, and I've had a couple of really good matches with some of their guys, Jason Rain, Vic Capri, and then some of the ECW guys are up there as well, like Simon Diamond and Chris Chetty, Danny Doring. So, it's kind of nice. I'm getting a chance to work with a lot of those guys that I had never met and everything, and it's going pretty good up there.
And we got a full bank of phone calls. We're going to start with Franklin in North Carolina. Franklin, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, man, how you doing?
First of all, let me say that, Mike Modest, I feel your pain. The last 4 companies I worked for, 3 of which are closed, and 1 got bought by an industry leader. So I feel your pain.
Well, it's like Lance Storm, too.
Yeah.
Right, everywhere he goes.
I really think Spike Dudley should have won that match on SmackDown.
With Austin?
Probably due to massive interference by Benoit and Jericho, but it still should have at least won. That way everybody gets the rub, and it really doesn't hurt Austin any.
He would have won the title?
Was it a title match?
I don't know if it was or it wasn't.
Well, definitely not won the title. Let's not get silly. Also, when Benoit left the WCW, when Sid Vicious's first, quote, title defense, he won with the crossface. Obviously, to kick dirt in Benoit's face for leaving.
And what a crossface was it? Remember that one?
His own face because he couldn't even do it.
Yeah, that too. So I see a disturbing parallel with Austin doing the crossface and the Lion Tamer in a match that had nothing to do with Benoit or Jericho.
Well, theoretically, it was
sort of did.
It sort of does. It's because they're trying to build that up and just build heat on him using the other guy's moves. I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. Plus, the idea, as they're trying to do with everything with Spike Dudley, is to give Spike Dudley a lot of sympathy. He's like going to survive. He survived the crossface, and he survived the Lion Tamer. Before losing to the Stunner.
Right.
Okay, it makes him like a real gutsy guy.
Lastly, I heard that DDP is signed. Is that true?
He is. I don't know if he's signed the actual piece of paper, but he's coming in.
Okay. So they're finally getting some of the big names going.
Well, I mean, it depends.
So Booker T is close to signing. Is that correct?
Booker T signed. Booker T has signed.
He has signed. Wonderful.
The guys. And so again, like, not every one of these guys may have put their pen to the paper, although almost all of them have. But the top guys in there is Bagwell, Booker T, Tommy Dreamer, Rob Van Dam, Diamond Dallas Page, Canyon, and then the rest of them are the 24 guys that you probably already heard about.
Right.
The Lance Storm, Mike Awesome, Hugh Morris type of guys. And
what do you think of making one of the WCW guys being the stalker, making something out of that crappy angle?
It's possible. Somebody sent in about Jeff Jarrett, and Jeff Jarrett gives back that $200,000. He could be the stalker.
And he was.
You have to work for free for a year.
What?
He was a credible heel.
Jeff Jarrett, yeah, but not again. I don't know if that's. I think in their eyes, that's not a guy they want to program with the Undertaker.
Yeah,
in fact, I know that they don't want to program Jeff Jarrett with the Undertaker.
Yeah, but I know
that for sure.
Great Jarrett Benoit IC title feuds. Of course, they can't. I'm sure, but.
Hey, Benoit can have a good match with just about anyone on that roster.
He can pull a good match out of Iron Sheik. So.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that. Almost anyone, but I wouldn't go that far.
Take my call, Dave.
Okay, you're very welcome. Let's go to Sean in Pennsylvania. Sean, what's going on?
What's up, guys?
Oh, sorry.
How you doing, Sean?
No, I'm in Phoenix. Don't worry about it.
Right.
How about Bagwell as a stalker?
He's kind of the stalker type.
That was just a joke, by the way.
Why not?
I was just hoping.
Why not? Yeah, really.
Hoping.
Actually, I could see him as like a guy. No, seriously. As far as a guy breaking up marriages and stuff. Actually.
Yeah, the personality fits, but maybe the Undertaker could actually just kill him and get him off the roster. That'd be kind of nice.
Hey, it's better than Paul Bearer.
Yeah, I guess. Listen,
I like the logic that Mick Foley was back on TV, so it might be him. I was thinking Linda's back on TV too. It could be her.
Hey,
that's too weird.
How about Finkel?
Honky Tonk was in the Royal Rumble. It could be Honky Tonk Man.
Hey, there you go.
Hell, you guys could be the Gobbledygooker. We haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah.
You guys kind of touched on this earlier, so I don't want to rehash too much, but I wanted Mike's opinion on the way some of wrestling's going. particularly with the injury over the weekend in CZW. And I was looking through some of these ads for the Japanese hardcore stuff. I'm not going to mention any names, but some of these like 19-year-old kids, it seems like, have like Dusty Rhodes foreheads, and they're getting power bombed into these, fluorescent, 20 fluorescent light bulbs over real stiff tables, and then you got even the WWF in Raw, like Brian was saying, how can you top this? A moonsault off the top that really has nothing to do with the match.
Let me tell you guys a real quick story. I worked up in Pennsylvania with a kid, and this kid had a scar running down his arm from the bottom of his deltoid all the way down to his elbow joint, and it ran along his bicep, and it was nasty. It wasn't clean at all by any means. It was very jagged, and it looked like something that had happened in a car accident or something. And I asked him about it. I said, "Hey, bro, what happened to your arm? It looks like you were in a car accident or something." And he said, "No, man, this was I was working for a backyard fed, and we got real drunk, and we popped a few pills and stuff, and we had a can opener, and I just told him, it was a hardcore match, so I just told him, hey man, if, you got to cut me, and so I was pretty drunk and everything, and he just tore into me with the can opener."
See, not to interrupt you, but you were talking about guys who. You'd rather see guys who can wrestle and then work into the bodies than guys, just have the look. These guys can't even, they don't have the bodies and they can't even wrestle. I don't know. It upsets me to the point of almost getting sick to see some of this stuff.
It's pretty sad, and really it's just a form of masochism as far as I'm concerned. It's kind of sick, and I told somebody one time, I could probably teach an orangutan within probably 10 minutes how to hit somebody with a chair. That doesn't take any talent. It doesn't take any ability at all. To be able to throw on a headlock the proper way, now that takes ability. That's something that I could not teach an orangutan. And so you get a lot of guys that they don't want to go through the training. They don't really, nobody marks out for a headlock takedown, and you aren't certainly going to get a huge pop from a crowd with a headlock takedown. And a lot of the workers have become such marks that that's really all they care about. They only care about the crowd popping. And so they will take the cheap way out and just say, well, screw it. I can't wrestle. I can't get the crowd to pop through general wrestling, and there's no way anybody's going to appreciate what I'm doing. And quite frankly, I'm not willing to put in the hours that I have to learn my craft, So I'll just grab a chair and whack the guy 10 times. That'll get a pop. And it sure does, So I don't know if the problem is more with the wrestlers just being complete marks for the fans, or if I don't know who's sicker. I don't know if the fans are just sicker for enjoying watching that crap,
Well, seeing stuff like that infiltrate, the only promotion like the WWF, even on the smallest level, like the steel cage match, like, can you top this? It's upsetting because I hate to see that, it leaves very little room for I don't know. I'm sure you guys can understand it. As a longtime wrestling fan, it just gets a little distressing to see that type of stuff kind of go into the only national product, big-time product that's out there, at least for a lot of people to see on TV.
Well, you can only do some of this stuff so many times before somebody gets hurt. And once that happens, you've gone away from what wrestling is supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're going to get some guy that worked in Mexico, and he said, some of these guys on the indie scene here in the U.S., they'll come back and they'll have a black eye, or they'll have, their heads all busted open, and they'll be bragging about it like it's something cool. And he goes, in Mexico, if you have a bruise, you don't tell anybody because it's an indication that, you may not know what you're doing in there.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, man. Thanks a lot, guys. Take it easy.
All right, man.
Okay, let's go to Greg in Pennsylvania. Greg, what's up?
Hey, fellas. How you doing?
Hey, Greg.
I actually had a question for Mike, and then I had one for you too, Dave.
Okay.
Mike, as far as performing in the ring, do you have a preference as far as a heel or a baby face? Is there one that you prefer?
Man, I think I probably enjoy working as a heel more, and the reason why is because percentage of the time, even though most of the fans that meet me will tell you I'm a nice person, the percentage of the time I don't really like wrestling fans for the most part, especially here in the States, because they are ignorant to the sport. If you can do a stone cold stunner, you're over in their book. You're a hell of a worker. And so I typically don't really like the wrestling fans here in the States. So I prefer to be a heel. Also, it just kills me, if you're a face and you screw up one spot, you may have lost the crowd for the rest of the entire match, Right. But I end up always working as a face. People just tend to like me, I guess, in the ring. So, there's no use fighting it. I'd rather work heel, but I'm almost always a face.
The other question was, Dave, back when Pillman was doing his infamous work-to-shoot angle with Bischoff and Sullivan, I'd heard you mention on the show before that you guys were friends. Was that something that you were in on? Was he kind of like keeping you posted along the way, or did you keep that hushed, or how did that work?
As far as
as far as the observer goes.
Okay. That's actually a very weird question because the first, I say that first, when they were first doing it, he would, it's so weird about Brian Pillman. He would tell me it's a work while if we were on the phone, let's just say for a half an hour, he would be out of his mind for 27 to 28 minutes. And then at the end he would go, of course it's all a work. And you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's how he was. So I can't say I knew, but I can't say he didn't tell me either. I don't know what but when him and Sullivan did the first thing, which was when Sullivan went after his eye and all that, now I bought that because I knew. And I didn't know, when Bischoff was making that stuff. I mean, Paulie was actually the one who was, always don't buy this. It's on their TV. Once it's on their TV, you know it's a work. And I go, yeah, but Brian is out of his mind. So I would say, in that sense, I didn't know. But pretty soon, I'll tell you when I figured it out because it pissed him off. Because it was after they did that thing with the eye, which many, many people bought. And, one guy who had trained with Kevin Sullivan goes, that's not how Kevin does his takedowns. Okay, so that was kind of okay, he knows. And then Kevin did an interview where he mentioned certain things it was on WCW Saturday Night, and it pissed me off because I go, Kevin just gave away that it's all a work. And I talked to Brian that night and I go, Brian, this is, and I laid the whole thing out. I figured, just by everything, I go, this is how it happened, this is who you talked to. And he just got really mad, and he just goes, oh, God. He just goes, well, can't you pretend you didn't hear Kevin's interview? And I go, everybody heard it. It wasn't like it was some secret thing. I go, it's so obvious. And then, so I guess that's what it was. At that point, though, the stuff after that, where he was, working Bischoff and Sullivan and to get that fake release and all that, from that point on, the way that whole thing was, and also when he was negotiating contracts, actually, I was probably one of the few people who was really in on all that because I could tell you that, he and I used to discuss all the time. He never wanted to go to WWF. I mean, he always wanted to get a bigger deal from WCW. I was the one going Shawn Michaels is their champion, and you match up better size-wise, and, their company's got Hogan, you're never going to be on top. I tell him that. I go, you want to be on top. That's because that was his dream, was to be on top, because he'd never really worked main events. And I go, you want to be in main events, you should go to WWF. And it's yeah, but WCW pays better, and, got the family and all that. And really the only reason he went to WWF was because he had the accident in the middle of his negotiations, and Vince guaranteed him the money for 2 years, and Eric wouldn't take the 90-day cycles out and then he was just so afraid that if he couldn't come back after 90 days, he'd lose his job. So he felt he had to go to WWF, but that was not his. He was using WWF as leverage to get a better deal from Bischoff, figuring that if Bischoff paid him Luger money, which is exactly the way the conversations were, if I could get Luger money, they will treat me like Luger, and which basically means he would get a big push. But if they pay me $250, which is what they want to pay me, I'll always be a $250 guy, and I'll be stuck in that level with the $250 guys. And unless I get, I've got to figure out a way to get that big money, because, or else they won't respect me to push me past the same level that he'd been his whole career, basically.
It was a shame he kind of flopped in the WWF anyway.
Well, the whole thing, he never should have come back from the ankle.
Though.
True.
Yeah, and there were other factors, but realistically, once he hurt that ankle far worse than anyone knew, and far worse than he would let on. He was told there was no way he was going to wrestle again. And there was no way. He would walk in the airport. He'd have to go on major pain pills just to walk through an airport. Let alone trying to do wrestling. If you ever watched his matches at the end in the WWF, the stuff he had to do, like take bumps on his face to compensate for the fact that he couldn't he was so physically limited with what he could do. I used to hate watching him wrestle at the end because I knew how much real punishment he was taking to avoid, because he couldn't do a lot of the basic stuff because of his ankle.
I really appreciate you taking my call, guys. You have a tremendous show.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go to Scott in Connecticut. Scott, what's up?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good, man.
I had a question for you. Is there any particular reason besides, the fact that, you're on the other side of the country that you don't really work up in the Northeast?
No, man, that's really typically, that's really the only reason is just probably airfare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
More than anything.
And, like, no one's ever contacted you about, coming over here for anything?
Not really, but that, I'm partially to blame for that because I just recently got with the whole computer revolution. I just recently learned about AOL and everything, and I'm getting a website up. It'll be up within the next few days.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had one a while back, but this was before I had a computer, so I couldn't really communicate with the guy who was in charge of the website, and so it was kind of, pointless to really have.
Yeah.
But now, I plan on being a big part of this website, and, people will be able to go on there and find out where I'm going to be. They'll be booking information. A lot of people just don't know how to get in touch with me, and for anybody out there that does want to get in touch with me, you can get in touch with me at right now at Modest4Life. That's the number 4 at AOL.com. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. It's just people just don't know how to get in touch with me, and now they'll have a way.
Yeah, because, I've never gotten to see you live, and if I ever get the opportunity, I'm definitely going to get down there to see you, because, I've seen you on tapes and stuff, and, of course, on the WCW match and then Beyond the Mat and stuff. And I think with a lot of the guys up here in the Northeast, basically everyone works together as far as, we got a lot of different companies, but then they're all, like, the same workers going from company to company, and I think a lot of the guys you would work very well with.
Cool, man.
As far as, Low-Key and guys like that. So.
Actually, I just got a chance to see some of his work, Low-Key's work, and I was real impressed with the guy. Especially, the guy just throws some insane-looking kicks.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to get a chance to work him in the King of Indies tournament that All Pro Wrestling's doing in October.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hopefully, if that thing is big enough, I might actually come out to because I'm planning the trip to California next year. I might actually come out for that.
Well, I'll tell you
Brian may come out for that too.
You couldn't pick a better time. You're going to have 16 of the top indie workers from all around the country. Plus, it's being done in part with Cauliflower Alley Club, and it's also being done as a fundraiser for Cauliflower. So you're going to have a lot of the legends there too. So it's going to be a real cool week. It's going to be like a 4 or 5 day event where you're going to have opportunities to rub shoulders with some of the legends. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be a good way to get, a lot of the guys from up here and then from, down south and then from over on the West Coast, too, into one tournament. As far as, because, the Super 8 over here, it's only like 8 guys. So, there isn't that much of a wide range of talent, whereas Roland said was it going to be like 16 guys?
Yeah, 16 guys.
Yeah, so then he was also saying maybe some guys from Japan, too, so.
Yeah, we're looking at possibly bringing in somebody from Japan. I know we're bringing in Doug Williams from Britain. And I had a chance to work with him, or actually I didn't work with him, but I worked on a card with him in Ireland, and I was very impressed with Doug. Doug's a great worker.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty exciting. You're going to be able to see some guys, internationally that you'd never be able to see in person, as well. So it's going to be real big, and I don't know if APW is going to make money on the deal, because obviously there's a lot of expense going into it. But we're doing it. I think Roland's main idea is just, he just wants to get APW's name out there and just show people that, hey, we recognize talent, and we want to reward the guys who have been working hard in this business. And plus, we're going to do like a boot camp summit just for all the guys in the tournament to kind of get together and just work in the ring. Even guys that I'm not going to be working with, I can get in the ring and work with that guy and learn something from him. And in turn, hopefully, he can learn something from me. So
yeah, cool. Do you know if you guys are going to be doing like a package as far as travel or maybe like hotel and stuff like that?
I don't know.
That's a good idea. That's a real good idea.
It is. It is a heck of an idea. Like that. And I'll definitely mention it to Roland. I know that there is a package as far as attending both days of the tournament because it is a 2-day tournament. But I don't know
the whole week. Because it's a whole week, then I know a lot. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to want to, make the commute.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is you should take advantage of the fact that, you're in San Francisco. San Francisco is one of the greatest places for tourists to go.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
I remember, I know how WCW used to go to Las Vegas every year for Halloween Havoc.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always the mentality that, they did it at the Grand, at the MGM Grand, and the wrestlers were always staying there, right? So the whole weekend was basically just, a big fan fest as far as, you know, getting to see all the wrestlers. And then, of course, you know, if you actually got the opportunity to stay at the MGM Grand, you were actually at the place where the arena was, so it's like, you know, you're 2 seconds away. And they have a lot of stuff going on. So that a lot of people, you know, would fly into Vegas. A lot of fans, I mean, basically, I'd say 50% of the people weren't from Vegas who attended that pay-per-view, you know?
Yeah, that's what UFC did with Atlantic City the last 3 shows, too.
Yeah.
You know, like, they had a certain, the hotel, the Trump Taj Mahal, I mean, like, the fighters were all there. You know, and all of the, you know, the real hardcore fans were all there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the building that it was at was, you know, right in the hotel.
Yes, I think it'd be a great idea if Rolling can get, like, some sort of, like, not really a deal with the hotel, but as far as, you know, just getting a hotel that, if he, you know, says, look.
Yeah, official hotel of the tournament as a sponsor, sure. And maybe like an airline as a sponsor. I think that's a great idea.
Like, we're having this, like, we're going to have a lot of people come in for this event. So, I mean, is it possible maybe, like, a special, you know, rate for the week? Because I'm having so many people come to your hotel for this, you know, same amount of days, you know?
Yeah, that's a great idea. And in fact, I'll probably give Roland a call right after the show's done.
Yeah, because I know I'm gonna want to. I mean, I'm really looking forward to, you know, hearing about that. Do you know by when you guys are gonna have like a definite idea of, like, you know, how it's gonna be laid out as far as, you know?
I believe they've got a pretty good idea already. But he's just leaking the guys out, you know, one at a time.
Yeah.
To kind of build the anticipation.
So probably by the end of the summer would be a good time to make the plans.
Yeah, I would say by the end of the summer you'll probably even know everybody that's going to be involved and everything. So, yeah, I'd say by the end of the summer would be a good time to start making your plans to come out.
Cool. Yeah, and hopefully by then he'll have it all set up with the, you know, hotels or airfare and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're here with Mike Modest, of course. We got a full bank of phone calls. We had tons of emails. This is a weird one. This is from Ralph, who goes, Mike, who is your favorite woman wrestler of all time?
Oh man. Golly, that is a tough one, man. There's so many good ones in Japan, you know, that I don't even know all their names. Probably Medusa, I think, would be one of the greatest, and the reason why is because she kind of brought the very physical women's wrestling to the United States. And if he's talking about, you know, the golden era of wrestling, probably, you know, Mae Young or a Fabulous Moolah, either one of those ladies would probably be my favorite.
Now, did you know Mae Young when she lived out here?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
she's a crack up, man. She's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You ever see her at the gym?
No, never did.
I just see her as someone who's like there working out every day for some reason.
She's tough.
She was tough. In fact, there was one time when I first started training, a guy had me in the ring and he was giving me some heat and working me over, and Mae says, you know, you call that heat? And, you know, she got in the ring and she started beating the living shit out of me, this old woman. And I was thinking, what a bizarre business. You know, here's this old lady and she's biting me. You know, she was biting the shit out of me. And I was like, good God, you know? So, yeah, she's a trip, man. She's a crack up.
You know, I mean, a lot of people probably don't know this because no one was alive then. But she had Mae Young had a rep. I mean, like, not just for being tough as far as being able to take bumps at 78 years old that nobody should be able to take at that age. But I mean, you know, like Mae Young and Mildred Burke, I mean, they were like the shooters of all the women wrestlers.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, I got a little taste of it when I was 18 years old.
I mean, I remember hearing the stories in the 60s about, like, you know, some of the smaller men wrestlers, and Mae Young start pounding on them. There were dressing room stories about her. She was a tough woman.
I believe it.
Let's go to Tim in Utah. Tim, what's going on?
Nothing much, guys. How you doing?
Hey, Tim.
Really good.
Mike, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I really dig your work a lot. I think that the WWF is probably passing up big time on having you involved, especially in the new WCW. You'd be a good standout wrestler for them.
I appreciate it.
And I wanted to ask you, of all the matches, you probably have been asked this before on Dave's show, but I didn't hear the answer. What's the most memorable match that you've had so far?
Memorable matches I've had. Wow, that's actually a tough question. I've had some really good ones. I wrestled Donovan Morgan in San Leandro, and oddly enough, I'm not even going to say any of my major TV matches. I had a good match against Elix Skipper that I was really proud of, but I had a match with Donovan Morgan in San Leandro, California for All Pro Wrestling that went 25 minutes. And
is that the match I was at, or is it different?
Yes, yeah, it was.
That was a hell of a match.
And that was that's one of those matches that I remember, you know, that I don't think I'll ever forget. I really liked that match a lot. And And then also, I just recently wrestled Vic Capri at Pacifica, and that was a real good match. We only went about 15 minutes, but man, it really was an awesome, awesome match. I've also had some really good ones with Chris Daniels, but I don't think that I could pick like my most memorable. You know what? Actually, I probably could. My most memorable was probably when I was 18 years old and I wrestled Coco Beware in Sayland Arena. And I got squashed.
For WWF, right?
Yeah, for WWF, and I got squashed. I was Mike Stone, one of the famous Stone brothers, and we're up there with Rocky and Tom Stone. But that was probably my most memorable, just because it was my first time in front of any kind of real crowd. I'd have to say that.
And who do you think, like, if you were to get put in WCW, let's say you were in a tag team, who do you think you would work well with to form a good team?
Right off the bat, I think Lance Storm would be somebody that I think I would work well with. Also, I think I would have worked really well with Elix Skipper as well.
Yeah, totally. I think that, like, when it comes to, I heard you say, like, you kind of like being a face, but you like being a heel more. When you wrestled that one match on WCW TV, it was like, you could like feel like you was a bad guy. So it was like you could just feel it, like just the way you walked out to the ring. It was like really deep hatred. You could, I don't know, it was just like an expression on your face. You made such a good heel.
Yeah.
I had never seen you wrestle before then, so I thought this guy's going to make it big time for sure, just because of the.
You know, the funny thing is too is I don't really change my persona, whether I'm healing or facing. I never really change my persona. I just come out and I'm myself. And some people like that. I mean, nowadays, with now Stone Cold's actually getting some heat, but before, he was actually, still being a prick to people, but because of the storyline, he was over as a face. So that's really the only time, I work face or heel just depending on how the promotion uses me, but I don't really change my persona at all.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And now, Dave, I have a question for you. It
Sure.
has to do with Goldberg. Like, I know, like, he doesn't want to get out of his contract because he's going to be losing all those millions and all that. But doesn't he see that he could, like, go a long way with becoming, like, a huge face in the WWF, and also at the same time, like, he would get exposure for charities that he supports, and also, don't you think that his marketing, his merchandise would make up, like, that $2 million or whatever, or that $3 million?
If it's done right, it could. But, if you have the,
The thing is, he's making $40,000 a week to sit on his couch and, eat or watch TV
play video games and
movies. Whatever he wants to do. He doesn't have to go in there and go on the road 200 days a year, get hurt, nothing like that.
He really has a phenomenal job. If I had that job, I love what I do as far as work goes. But if I had that job that Bill Goldberg has, and I had the chance to do what I do, I would probably take what Bill Goldberg does. I mean, not even probably. I'm sure I would with that kind of money, because it's like, geez, it's just like, that's like the dream life, And the thing is in 2.5 years, he can go back and do all that, and he'll have made all that money, and if he suffers, let's just say he goes in there and wants to wrestle, and let's say 6 months in, he suffers, he gets a neck injury, and he's out and he's done, and he's out all that money. But this way, he sits out those years, he collects $6 million more. He can live off the interest probably forever. He can go back to wrestling in 3 years, all rested and healed from everything. Come back, good as new, and it's the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm. I see your point.
He'd have to get over, but he'd become almost like like that thing of like, people would be waiting for him to come back. There'd be anticipation. Just like there was, of course, with Jim Hellwig when he came back, and it lasted all of 1 week. But, if it's done right, and he can pull it off. But he's, so I can't, if I was, I know what I would do if I was Vince, and he may end up doing it. I mean, the lower the ratings get, the more likely it is he's going to make that call. So, and the ratings are falling.
Like an all-time low.
Well, not all-time low, but they're the lowest they've been since early '98.
And since you brought it up, what's the deal with Hellwig? Is he ever going to come back, or you just think he's pretty much like
who?
in the closet?
Jim Hellwig. I think he's impossible to deal with. Yeah, I think he's impossible to deal with, because there's a million promoters who would love to have him, certainly for those last 10 years. And the fact that he wrestled, except for a few matches in WCW and a few matches in WWF, and I think one overseas tour, that was all the wrestling he's done since, the early 90s. That tells you how difficult he must be to deal with. I mean, like, they had that Australian tour he was going to headline, and what was the deal? He didn't get his passport or something, and they had to cancel the whole tour.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just like it's what can you do? You know, it's like, what can you do?
Well, Mike, I wish you the best. I hope to see you on TV sometime soon.
Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it.
Welcome.
This is from Mike Johnson, who's asking, what dates are you going to be in Canada? Do you know the cities you're working?
I don't know all the cities that I'm going to be working, but I'm going to be there from the 20th through the 25th. But I don't have the itinerary of you know, the individual cities.
But the Friday night you'll be in Calgary, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I'm sure you could go to the StampedeWrestling.com and find out the schedule where they're going to be on those dates.
I want to ask you something about a guy you just wrestled a couple weeks ago or so, a little over a week ago, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan Jones. What were your thoughts on him? I know he's only probably had about half a dozen matches.
Well, Nathan's teaming with another guy, Big John, and I was real impressed with Nathan. As far as a big guy goes, I mean, the thing that impressed me about both those guys is that they're very humble. For as big as they are and you know, awesome as they look, they're very humble guys, and they don't go in there and pretend like they know it all. You know, they're very upfront, and you know, with the fact that they're a little on the green side. But the thing with Nathan that really surprised me too is, man, the guy's got a ton of charisma. And I had a pretty good match with him. You know, Donovan and I wrestled him. It was like a 5-6 minute match. It was like a TV match, you know. But it was a good match. And hey, I came out with all of my limbs still attached. So anytime that happens, man, I got to consider it a success.
Do you think they'll make it big someday, both of them?
Without a doubt, I think both of them have the have a good opportunity at making it big. Nathan is further along than John at this point, but you know, John you know is very eager to learn, and so yeah, I think both of them have a real good shot at making it. I heard a rumor that they were going to be going to Ohio Valley as well, which I think would be really. They are
at some point.
Good. Yes, and I think that would be a really good move for them because you know they're going to get more work, and you can't help but learn up there. So yeah, I think it's not a matter of it's not a question of if, it's just a matter of when.
Cornette's getting all the giants.
What's that?
Cornette's getting all the giant guys.
Yeah, he is. He's getting a lot of monsters up there.
Oh my God! I mean, it's amazing. You haven't seen the tapes, Mike, but you know, John Cena prototype is there, and it's like. He looks so small.
He looks like I wouldn't want to say a midget.
No, he doesn't look like a midget, but it's so funny because watching him, and it's just like, you know, you think of, because we've seen him out here, and he's not a tall guy, he's probably 6 feet, but very muscular. And then I saw him on their TV, and it's like, oh my God, he just doesn't look like a monster at all.
Well, you know what though, too? Before he went, they asked him to actually cut up. And I think the reason being is because of the fact that he's not super tall. So he can't, you know, it's going to be tough for him to pull off the I'm a big power wrestler thing, you know.
Well, especially there.
Yeah,
with
walking
Brock
up to
Lesnar and those guys.
Exactly. You walk up to to monsters like WWF has, you know, at 6 foot, you're not really going to be able to pull off the. I think the days of Ivan Putski are over, you know. So
they've been over for a long time.
Yeah, for a long time. So they actually wanted John to trim up a little bit. So I think like right now, I think he's only about 245, 240.
I think he's like 235.
He could be, because he did drop a lot of weight and he really cut up. So, you know, it doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, last time I saw him, I was joking around with him, telling him that, you know, I was almost there. I was getting close to him. Yeah. But actually what it was, he was shrinking down, getting closer to me.
This is from Chris, who says, if you were offered a deal from New Japan, All Japan, Noah, WWF, the contracts are all the same money, basically figured you were going to get the same push, same level, where would you go?
At this time, I would probably go to Noah, and I'm not just saying that because I had a tryout for him, but you know, because I just feel like there's a lot of room to grow there, and I don't know that there's as much room to grow in New Japan, and certainly there's not a whole lot of room to grow in WWF. You know, like I said,
stylistically, you're the best fit there.
Yeah, I just think I would do better there, and I think it would be the best for my career.
The All Pro Wrestling King of the Indies tournament, it's basically a deal. It's going to be from October 24th through the 28th. It's going to be, the shows are going to be in Vallejo on, I believe, let's see, it's Wednesday they're going to have a boot camp summit, Wednesday the 24th, which is my birthday, by the way. Friday the 26th is the first night of the King of the Indies in Vallejo. They're going to have on Saturday morning, since the ring will be up, they're going to have an amateur wrestling clinic in the morning, basically a boot camp demonstration where they're going to show how they train all pro wrestling wrestlers in the early afternoon, a mini camp. So if you're coming from out of town, you can train in the ring. Also in the afternoon, there's going to be Legends Polaroids for the wrestlers, as far as also a lot of the wrestling legends that live in the Bay Area are going to be brought in. And the finals are going to be Saturday night in Vallejo, and there's going to be a barbecue, after show party, and plenty of other stuff. We'll actually be talking about this a lot, probably leading up to the event. We're going to get to as many phone calls as we can because our phone lines have been jammed for the entire show. We're going to go to Chris in Indiana. Chris, what's going on?
Hey, guys.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, couldn't orangutan do a top rope Hurricane Rana? Just wondering.
No.
Okay. Sorry about that. I got a couple questions. Actually, one I was going to ask about, of all things, somebody called up a few weeks ago and asked about the Gaspar brothers, and I happened to hear that archive, so I don't need to ask that question. Somebody must be watching the same old New Japan tapes that I am.
That was a bad period, though.
Yeah.
that was when they were in trouble.
I can't believe I didn't recognize it was Orton now that I know.
Maybe those tapes were in the discount bin.
Right.
You know what's funny is the Gaspar brothers were like, that was New Japan's version of like T.L. Hopper and the Goon and that period where they had all those bad ideas at once.
And then soon after, like, I don't know, October or so, Orton was under the mask, and then in December he was back as Orton, Bob Orton Jr., so it's not like they took him off the tours or anything. I got a question about the Russians there when they were there in '89. I mean, that was
those Russians, I remember that.
You know, not Nikita and Ivan. That was going to be a huge deal. I mean, they promoted that in the After mags and everything. You know, Inoki's bringing.
Well, it was a huge deal in a huge deal in the sports world. Yeah, Hashimov and Zangief and those guys when they first came to New Japan.
Mm-hmm. And did they?
Yeah, the deal was politically it was a big deal because what happened was at that time, you know, Soviet professional athletes or amateur athletes had never gone. They were always kept in their country and they'd never gone. And then the Soviet economy collapsed, and one of the things they were doing was selling their athletes to different sports. And actually, the first sports organization that got Soviet athletes was New Japan Pro Wrestling with Hashimov and Zangief, who were great amateur wrestlers, and they brought them in. And that was the actual first wrestling show ever at the Tokyo Dome in 1989 or 88. I don't remember which. And, you know, it was a very successful event and, you know, basically paved the way for all of the Tokyo Dome shows of the last 12, 13 years.
They just couldn't work. That was the only problem, right?
Well, how could you, though? I mean, you're talking about, these were guys who were super amateur wrestlers that were trained by Hiroshi Hase, who was also a good amateur. And they were taught to do enough to get through a match, but, I mean, they never went through
enough
pro wrestling
to win the world title.
Right,
Hashimov got the world title right away, yeah. But, I mean, Zangief Zangief could have been a great pro wrestler. He just didn't have, he didn't have the training he started when he was old. But, it's like any of those athletes that come in from another sport, I mean, and Mike will tell you this, the ability to work, and granted some guys are natural and pick it up, but the real ability to work that you're talking about, how long does that take? I mean, how long did it take you, Mike, where you could go back and go, like, it took me this many years to really, I mean, when we were talking about, really know how to work a crowd?
I'll tell you what, Dave, every once in a while, like, I'll have another match, like I'll have a match like this one I had with Vic Capri just recently, and then the one I had with Donovan just recently, where I think that I've reached the top of my game, and then I have another match that I think, man, that was really it. Now I really know what I'm talking about. So, like, I never stop learning. I always try to, keep learning, but I think it probably took me a good 5-6 years before I really started understanding psychology at all, and before I really understood how to work a crowd. It probably took me 5-6 years.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that we're talking about here were guys that were thrown in the Tokyo Dome in main events or were high on the card, and one of them in the main event, obviously. Literally, their first night in the ring, and, like Hashimov was in the ring for, I think it was a month before they gave him the world title, because the one thing about that period was that angle with the Russians wrestling the Japanese and the Americans drew tremendous money for about 2 months. And then, the novelty faded and the matches weren't that good, but there was a period where, I mean, they were doing, like, incredible gates every single night. No one could believe the business it was doing at not just at the Tokyo Dome, but at all the arenas. So those guys had to go in there and they had to work. And, I mean, literally, and they were clueless. I mean, let's face it. But, they were thrown to the wolves.
I can't even imagine what it would have been like, to be thrown in there after I'd only been in the business a couple of months.
Yeah.
My second question is regarding Tough Enough. I didn't tune in until after Mike was already on, so you may have already talked about this. But Mike, are you going to be watching Tough Enough? Are you going to be interested in that? Do you know what it's like as a trainer?
I'll probably watch a few episodes, but to be honest with you, I mean, it's something that I live, when I'm training guys and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with it, and so yeah, I'll probably tune in.
Now, was there a ringer in that group or not?
What's that?
Was there a ringer in that group or not?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know either. I mean, I know that there were ringers in the tryouts, but I don't know if they made it.
Okay.
We'll be, I think Brian and I are going to have tapes of it soon. I may have it, even by tomorrow.
Right.
Tape of the first episode and maybe the third episode as well.
Some people have written that, Al Snow is going to he's going to get over because of the way he trains just the way he deals with the students. But,
that's what Mick Foley said.
He had a gym for years and years, so it's not like, he had a hand in training Kane and D'Lo and a lot of other people.
Yeah.
It's not really a surprise.
I think they're talking more as his persona.
Right.
But of course, and again, the whole thing with ECW, I mean, they thought it was like guaranteed this guy was going to come in and be huge. I don't know about huge, but come in and be more successful than he was, and it just didn't happen.
Right.
I think there's certain ECW gimmicks that they don't translate over well.
A lot of them, actually.
Well, thanks for having me, and good luck to you, Mike.
All right, man. Thank you.
Okay. This is a question I wanted, before we get back to the calls, for Mike, because he just met the guy. He goes, I recently saw a tape of a Misawa Kawada match, and I was wondering if you could tell me how big they are in terms of height and weight. And he goes, I now understand why you rave about those two so much. Their work is great. I mean, they had many, many great matches. I mean, what would you say? I mean, you've seen tapes of them. I've actually met both guys, but how big would you say Misawa is? Because you were just around him.
Well, you can go to the All Pro Wrestling website, and you can also go to my website once it's up, and there's a picture of me with Misawa, and he's a lot bigger than I had expected him to be as far as height. He's probably about 6'2", 240, 245. So I mean, he's definitely larger than me. I've got more definition in my body and stuff, but he's a pretty big guy, man. And Kawada, I've never met in person, but just judged based on seeing Misawa in person, I can tell you Kawada's a monster. He's probably he's really thick.
Kawada's not as tall as Misawa. I mean, I'm guessing 5'10" to 11. I mean, his weight varies. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think he's very, very thick. Some are recently he trimmed down a little bit, but I mean, even trimmed down, I would say, 235, 240, and maybe when he's, maybe even as much as 245, 250 at certain points, because he's got a big chest and arms.
Huge chest, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Misawa was a lot bigger than I thought he was going to be.
Let's go to Chris in Minnesota. Chris, what's going on?
Not too much. What's going on with you guys?
Not a whole lot.
Dave, you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chris.
Okay. Hey, I got a question for you. I was watching I don't know if you answered this earlier, so if you did, cut me off. I was watching the AAA Wrestling last night on Galavision, and they had this interesting match with a 6-turnbuckle ring.
Six-sided ring.
With that?
Pena had a bad dream one night and woke up with we woke up with a 6-sided ring as a gimmick. No, it was just he just wanted to do something different. He built a 6-sided ring and he brings it in for some shows.
Okay, so there's nothing significant to it, like there's a long tradition or anything like that. He just
King of Kings tournament they use that ring. I don't know about.
There's actually a short tradition. It's a couple of years.
Okay, so it's not just he saw No Holds Barred and thought that would be a great idea to use that gimmick.
Yeah.
No. I think he did he did a ring that was like a star once. And this Pena is I don't know how to explain it. He just comes up with ideas and throws them out there, and many of them are terrible, and some of them are good. But it's kind of like Russo, although his company's still alive, so maybe it's not quite the same.
Yeah, well, he hasn't made David Arquette the champion just yet. So
well, that's a good point.
No, he used celebrities, but he did keep the celebrities the celebrities feuded with the referees, as opposed to celebrities going in there and beating the world champion. That's true.
Yeah. There was a good point I thought of yesterday while listening to Bob talk about that he went to Macalester College here in Minneapolis. I find it interesting that they ousted a guy who went to Macalester, which Macalester grad was, I believe, the former head of the United Nations. And then you have, he gets replaced by a guy who put 2 video stores out of business. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting when you think about it like that. A guy who is very educated, very qualified to basically run a wrestling company, and then you oust him for a goof that put 2 video stores out of business. But oh well, thanks a lot, Mike. Enjoy your work a little bit. I do get a chance to see a bit. Is there any chance of you coming to the Midwest and working at all?
All I've been doing right now is I've been heading out to Chicago. But other than that, I'm working on something possibly in Connecticut and stuff. But who knows, man? It's just a week by week thing. I get people calling me all the time for bookings.
Okay, well, I hope to see you in the area and let you get another call in.
All right, man.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Okay, let's go to Bill in Wisconsin. I think you're going to be the last one in.
Hey, how are you guys doing today?
Hey, Bill.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask you guys clear something up for me. I've been hearing rumors on the internet lately. Could you please tell me that the Stalker is not the Big Show?
It's not the plan. I can tell you it's not the plan. What it's going to
anything can happen, but
that's right. I will say this: anything can happen. This booking is week to week, which has its pluses and minuses. But that I can tell you that's not the plan.
All right, that's good. What about Shawn Michaels? Is that possible at all?
I'd say that one is impossible.
It's impossible at this point?
That is impossible. In fact, the only thing possible about Shawn is that Brian's going to have an aneurysm.
Yes. Please go on
to
your next
talk
question.
about Shawn Michaels questions on this show right now.
Yeah, how do you guys think the whole WCW invasion has played out so far? I mean, I've been a WWF fan.
I'm horribly disappointed. I have to say that.
Yeah,
but once Tess gets over there, things might turn around.
Yeah, I mean, Lance Storm and Hugh Morris don't exactly make my jaw drop. I mean, they got to do better than that because I've been a WWF fan all my life, and to me, Lance Storm has always been an ECW guy, and Hugh Morris he's never been anything to me.
Well, they want to tease it slow. I mean, what they've done now has not ruined it.
Who would you like to see on TV?
Who would I like to see?
Yeah.
DDP, Booker T.
Well, you're going to get to see those guys. You'll get to see those guys.
Yeah,
you'll get them.
Definitely Goldberg, but that doesn't sound like it's going to happen anytime soon.
How about Ric Flair?
Well, Ric Flair, definitely. I mean, he would definitely.
I think that's important. I think that's an important one.
But I don't know the guys they have so far. I mean, the only way I know Lance Storm is I saw him wrestle here live in Milwaukee. He wrestled against Just Incredible for the ECW World Title, so I know him as a great ECW wrestler. I mean, when I see Lance Storm, I do not think WCW, and when I think WCW, I definitely do not think Hugh Morris.
How much WCW did you watch there at the end?
At the end, I believe I stopped completely watching it. I stopped watching it as soon as the NWO started getting old, and I tuned back to WWF.
How about that?
Okay.
Dave,
okay, we're totally out of time. Mike, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the other day you had Bob on, and it's such a shame, man, because I think WCW was going to change around and really make a turn for the better. Bob told me, that they wanted to go back to the wrestling, stop competing, with Vince on the entertainment, stuff, because people have already got their fix of that. It's not a new product. For somebody else to be successful, and WCW, I think, was heading in the right direction, just wrestle. Make wrestling your main attraction instead of all the soap opera stuff.
Well, I think you need a little bit of everything in the mix, but
yeah, you need your angles and stuff, but
sure,
the importance of the wrestling, I think, was the thing that WCW was just missing, because they did have guys in there that could wrestle.
And having skits and stuff is okay, but when they're really bad skits, all it does is take away from it.
Yeah, and like Hugh Morris, a lot of people may not realize that guy can work, and he's a heck of a wrestler. But you stick him with the silly gimmick long enough, people lose respect, and people may not even pay attention to what the guy can do in the ring.
Yeah. Anyway, Mike, I want to thank you very much for joining us, and best of luck to you in all your endeavors. You're going to be running around Stampede and hopefully Japan, and as well as around here. And anyway, we'll be seeing you very soon and having you back on the show soon as well.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Really appreciate it.
Okay, very welcome. And that was Mike Modest, and we will be back tomorrow, of course, a tape show with Brian Blair, and we'll be back here live on Friday with Adam Pearce at 5.